Hey guys, today we're talking about why your gut might be making you fat. It's not all willpower, especially in our modern lifestyle.
One of the things that I found to be interesting was I actually recently learned about a study where they took pretty much the microbiome from obese mice and then they transferred it over into germ-free mice and to see what happens to the mice. And they noticed that feeding this mice a standard diet, the mice actually became overweight. And the opposite was also true. If they fed the germ-free mice microbiota from the lean mice, then the particular mice would end up being lean. So it's very clear that the microbiome was actually modulating the phenotype of whether somebody was obese or lean.
Yeah, can you say that in plain English, please?
So pretty much what I'm trying to say is what the study was actually showing or highlighting was that just based on the microbiota, so just based on the bacteria that was actually in the gut, the particular mice led to determining whether or not the mouse was fat or skinny. It's pretty much what it was, even though they were given the same diet. So it's not the food that they were eating. It was just clearly that the type of bacteria that the mice received actually protected it from gaining weight or not.
So what are probiotics? How would you define that?
So what probiotics is pretty much they are bacteria or pretty much live microorganisms.
So it's like a community of living microorganisms, a community of bacteria that is on our bodies, that are in our gut. Why does it matter? What's the function of the microbiome?
So it's actually very crucial, actually pretty much vital for our survival. We don't really discuss it a lot, but it's important for digestion. It also plays a role in immune function. It involves balance in our mood.
Yes.
So it plays in our mental health and just brain health in general. And they even play a role in an expression of genes, what genes are turned on and off. And they also affect our appetite to help us to feel full or hungry. And it's pretty much been described as like a new organ because the amount of bacteria that we have on us is actually probably weighs the amount that a brain weighs, which is about 2 pounds.
About 2 pounds of microorganisms in our bodies and on our bodies. All right, now we're getting into the meat and potatoes, no pun intended there, of our discussion. So probiotics and weight loss. So what are some of the benefits of the probiotics and how is it affecting our weight gain? The microorganisms in our gut can actually decrease the absorption of fat in our diet or certain macronutrients in our diet. So depending on what microorganisms you have in your gut may be making you more fat or less fat, right? So you can have two people eating the same meal, but based on the microorganisms in that person's gut, they may not be absorbing as much of the fatty stuff. Another thing that the microorganisms do is they take the food that we eat when it reaches into our colon and they break that food down, especially the fiber. They love fiber and they especially love the soluble fiber. And so what they do is they take that and they break it down to something called short chain fatty acids. And this short chain fatty acid helps us in so many different ways. It helps us with the energy source for the colon cells. It helps to regulate the gut pH. It helps to give us some anti-inflammatory effects. It helps our metabolism. It helps with appetite regulation. It helps with our immune system modulation. It helps us to protect against colorectal cancer and enhance gut-brain communication. So there's so much function from these short chain fatty acids. So if we don't have the microorganisms in the amount that they should be in, then we don't get all these awesome benefits that they provide.
And it's just highlighting the fact that these microorganisms are actually what's doing the work for us.
Yes.
We wouldn't be able to tap into a lot of these essential vitamins and nutrients without having these microbes. And if you don't have the proper balance of them, you maybe missing things that you should be getting. Not all bacteria digest the same exact things,
Absolutely.
right? So you need to have a diverse microbiota. And that's what's really important. And that's what I think is lacking in the Western diet is that we don't have a diverse microbiota. And so therefore we're not able to extract or even produce certain nutrients that we need in order for us to live a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, I've heard Dr. B that write the book Fiber Fuel describes it like this. I might be messing it up. It's been years since I read that book. But the idea that if you think of a factory, for example, being operated by just the cleaning staff and the CEO. There's no way that business is going to operate well. You need the diverse roles to be played by different team members. And so it's so important to have that diversity. What are some of the foods that help with this short chain fatty acid that we're talking about? It's primarily plant-based food, right? No other classification of food has fiber in it, especially your fruits and vegetables like apples, bananas, berries, broccoli, and carrots. Whole grains like oats, barley, quinoa, brown rice, legumes like lentils, chickpeas, and beans, nuts and seeds like almonds, flax, and chia seeds. Like these are the food that have a lot of soluble fiber that the microorganisms can then help to ferment in our colon, and then it helps to give us all those amazing benefits.
And so one of the other things, actually we hear a lot of complaints, at least women in particular typically tend to complain about it, is this issue of feeling bloated. And some women actually feel like they have chronic bloating, where they're always feeling like they're just puffy, their stomach has been, it's just extended out. And a lot of it could be with just your microbiota is not functioning properly. You don't have the proper diversification of the microbiome. Some people even have, it's even been shown, like even not just bloating, but even with having IBS. So, it can help to relieve some of those inflammatory symptoms from having IBS.
Yeah, because a lot of the time is that we don't have a balance in the type of microorganisms. And again, going back to the analogy of the factory, maybe we have too much cleaning staff and not enough diversity of team members. Mm-hmm. All right, so why is it not willpower when it comes to weight loss?
And so one of the things that it's not willpower, because a lot of what's happened with the microbes that's there, they're the ones that, depending on what's there, is really what's dictating a lot of times whether or not we feel full.
Yes.
Sometimes it's even dictating our mood. So it's not something that we are in control of, in a sense. Like obviously, if the type of food we put in and the type of environment that we create for the bacteria is there, it's in our control. But what we currently have there, a lot of times, is probably pushing us to eat certain foods more.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, if a particular bacteria is the highest there, it's going to be producing byproducts that then it's going to trigger your brain probably to crave certain things. And so that's why it's not just willpower. It could be that you really have a dysbiosis going on in your gut.
Yeah, and as you were talking, I'm just thinking about it could be your parents, for example. So if your mom did not have a diverse microbiome, or you live in a country where, like us in the West, where we're super sterile, right?
We don't spend a lot of time outside, so most of us don't garden anymore. We're not out in the soil, which is where we pick up a lot of soil available bacteria, which is really good for our health.
Exactly, and we also have mass farming, right? Where because of certain disease and things that usually break out on a mass scale, they have to sterilize like the food that we eat significantly. So by the time we get it, we don't have little microorganisms on it like we would if you grew your own apple or you went out and got some fresh blueberries. And even if you did wash it with some water, you would still have some good stuff left back.
And I want to add that, and that's if you're actually eating fruits and vegetables, right?
Yeah.
And so if you're eating a lot of processed foods, you're not even touching the surface of being able to really have a diversified microbiome, and which is what most of us are. We have a lot of convenience food just based on lifestyle. Like, we're so busy, and so most of what we're eating, even though we call it food, I'm not necessarily sure if we really should be calling a lot of the things that we purchase in the supermarket as really food. Just because you can, consume it doesn't necessarily mean that it's really food.
Yeah, it's stuff that was engineered in a factory. Why is it not all willpower? Again, because these microorganisms communicate with the brain. They call it the gut-brain axis, where they can communicate chemically and send signals. And so your body can release cortisol in response to the gut microbiome, or it can release serotonin to make you feel happy and in a good mood. This is such an important aspect of weight loss or even mental health. And so the gut plays a significant role.
So now that we've told you, about how important it is, and probably let you know that most of us in the West actually probably don't have good gut health. Just like us, there's certain things that we prefer to eat, like we like more than other things. The same thing is for our microbes that's in our gut. There's certain ones that prefer certain types of plants over others. And so it's important to have a diverse amount of plants that we're eating.
And actually, they say the sweet spot is about 30 different plants per week. So having a diverse amount of plants that you're eating, and it's not just salads. You hear plant and you instantly think, veggies.
That's it.
Yeah, but no, you have like nuts, you have seeds, you have herbs, spices, vegetables, fruits, Berries. There's so many different diverse things that some of us are probably already eating, but we don't recognize that you get the benefits from it. So we want to eat the rainbow because of the polyphenols, which are usually rich in fruits and vegetables that have bright colors, and also in green leafy vegetables as well, like kale, the brassicas. And each color again gives a different chemical that the microbiome can then use and that our body needs. Also, popcorn. You like popcorn a lot.
Popcorn is like one of my favorite.
So there's some.
One of my favorite things to have because it's just really tasty and it's actually very high in fiber, right?
Yep. And the berries is also a really good one. So fiber is gonna be what you want. It's food that are plant-based again.
You just need to improve. You just need to increase the amount of plants. So that's what the problem is. We've swung the pendulum pretty far. Like we're now no longer eating enough plant foods. We've just strictly moved on to just mainly eating things that's been stripped of their fiber.
Yeah.
And so that's where the problem is. So we need to definitely add more in.
Yeah, whole foods, in other words. Yeah, food that are more natural. You can look at it and be like, okay, this is a pineapple, this is a pear, this is a whatever. And also the skin. The skin has a lot of good fiber. You want to consume some of that as well.
Especially with things like potatoes. Like a lot of times, we tend to, a lot of people like mashed potatoes. When you remove the skin, you remove a lot of the fiber from off the potato.
Awesome. So foods that are rich in probiotics are yogurt, because it's cultured, sauerkraut, because it's fermented, kimchi, tempeh, miso, and also probiotic supplements, and again, plant-based food that are rich in fiber.